I reckon a cool way to look at it is just how I keep my mind in check, especially in the early days, is to show my mind how much it really doesn't know, right?
Oh, I love that.
Right?
This a success off another breath. This the first step in searching to be nothing less than be the best in what you do to prove their strength in being you. Learn so much in chasing dreams that I never would in school.
And what's going on, guys? Kieran Edley here from the Pocket Coach Podcast, the place where we bring mental health and performance together through a scope of both science and mindfulness, or if you will, spirituality. Now, we have a very fantastic human here with such an intriguing story. He's a business mentor. Some people might even call him a life coach. Some people might call him a success coach, right? There's many names for this incredible human that you could probably use pretty effectively. He's, in my life, a friend, but also as well, I see him as a mentor. I've learned a lot from this man that I have right in front of me, right next to me. I'm so excited to share not just his story, but many of the lessons that he teaches with some incredible people that he works with. He quite literally coaches some of the most successful people in the space of New Zealand. It's pretty incredible. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Chent Thambaya. And this man, I can guarantee you guys are going to learn a lot from this guy. He's achieved so much. Going from being on the streets, doing some pretty crazy things, to quite literally helping some of the most incredible people in the corporate space. So welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Pleasure.
Oh, brother, so excited for this, man.
Me too, man.
So excited.
Me too. 100%.
I actually just the other day, probably about 2 weeks back, I met Chent over in Giraffe on the viaduct here in Auckland, New Zealand. And we had just sat down for a beautiful conversation. It was the first time we'd actually met up, and it must be about 5 years, where we actually, it was the first time we met each other properly. And you're actually at the time in the building of one of your older businesses, which I'm so excited to hear more about. But yeah, today we're not just going to talk about personal development and general success. We're also going to talk about business. We're going to talk about how Chent here has actually transformed his life from a place of worrying about money to quite literally the exact opposite of that, to complete abundance, because that is a big factor that a lot of people actually mark to be a big critical point of their mental health issues, which is financial issues. So it's quite literally the biggest that people mark in America is the biggest cause of anxiety and depression that they state through stats is money, which is crazy, right? So I think it's such a big topic to actually touch on, and it's unfortunately seemingly taboo a lot of the time, especially in these sort of podcasts. So I'm very excited to delve into that.
100%, man. I feel we'll bring a very healthy perspective to money, right? That probably has taken us a lot of trials and tribulations and beautiful experiences in life to come to ourselves.
Totally.
And we never really get there. Like, as much as my money story serves me a lot more in life right now, I find that sometimes the same old money stories still linger in my mind as you'd probably face yourself. And
I'm 100%.
Right.
100%.
So I'm excited for whatever comes through us.
Brother, me too. So what I'd love to start with is a little bit more about what you do currently in terms of the kinds of people that you are working with, and then we'll delve a little bit into your history. So I want to start there exactly so people get an idea of who you are. Yeah, so talk to us
Awesome.
about that.
I would say the person that aligns best with me is I like to label them a visionary. And it's funny. I was thinking about this a lot lately of being, I guess, continually refining we go through our process in life and business, right? And the question is, who do I serve? Yes, we serve everybody, but who's that special individual I serve? And then I realized that I got a tattoo on the side of my head that says visionary. I forgot I got that, right?
Yeah.
And then I asked myself, what is the definition of a visionary, right? And I just realized for me, a visionary is somebody that honestly has beautiful imagination and sees things in this world that may not be their current reality, and that ends up becoming creation, or that breakdown of imagination being image in action and image taking physical form. That was something that really started to change my life in the beginning. So doubling down on that, bringing it back to that question, man, I honestly just serve high performers and visionaries that are honestly either looking to start creating their vision, or in the process of actually already building it, and they may have hit points of stagnancy where you know, they may be achieving levels of financial success already, but they're stagnant, they're not happy, something is missing. That's where I tend to come into the picture and answer a lot of things and help these visionaries really physically actualize their dream and their imagination.
Amazing, brother. Oh man, I'm so grateful to have you here speaking about this stuff, because this is such a the kind of stuff that's going to be flowing from this guys is such a needed conversation, I feel, especially in this sort of space. So speaking on that, talk to us about, of course, more in terms of if you're open to it as well, like sort of like the specific kinds of people that you do work with.
Sure.
Sort of what they do. Because I think that would actually be
100%, man.
In terms of like the most peak of those.
Yeah, people. I heard a quote recently that really answered this question for myself.
Yeah.
Or even a statement, and it was around. I didn't find my target market. I had to accept my target market. Right. And that really sunk for me, because Shent, my character, my story, right? He's always liked the idea of working with certain individuals. So who I thought I worked with was high performers, but there was something missing in that, I felt. And if I looked at all of my past clients, who are they? Because these are the people that have always come to me. I get people, honestly. One general category of the people that are yet to launch their vision is they'll be stuck in a 9-to-5 job. They'll be may just be stuck in their own business, but they're feeling unhappy and unfulfilled, and to the point that they want to take a jump. They want to step into something that equals fulfillment. They want to pursue their passion and that keyword of freedom, and even define what freedom means to them. So I get a lot of people that are in this hamster wheel looking to launch something, and not just launch it, but launch it and skyrocket it, right? So that's a whole bunch of people fall into that category. They tend to want to get into coaching. Yeah. Maybe it's because I'm a coach myself. But I find that through their own liberation, the thing closest to their heart is to serve that liberation back to other people, and understand how to monetize it, not to make it about the money, but to understand what role money plays in that liberation, for it to be something where they can actually allow the exchange of money in order to actually serve more people and serve the people they are serving and working with it on a much deeper level. So I would say, honestly, coaches is who I do work with, and at different tiers, whether they're just launching, they're already established, they're working with thousands of people a month and it's feeling more like a job now. I work with that end of the spectrum too. So anyone from start to heavily established, but any sort of a coach or a service provider.
What would you say, quote unquote, would be the most, I suppose, the most successful individual you've worked with? Yeah.
As in a name or like a
or just category? What they do, if you wish to name them, fantastic, but either way.
I would say, honestly, the experienced personal trainer.
Wow.
Maybe that's because what I was.
Wow.
And that's, again, something that I've only just realized is the person that's been working for themselves, trading time for money for at least 4 or 5 years. And they're in this place now where they're not really liking the commitment level of their clients. They're feeling burnt out. It's become this weird client session chasing game. Yeah. Just to stay afloat. Every time they've gotten sick in the past, they don't bring in money because they're not in the gym, as an example. And that person that's honestly starting to lose their passion. And this isn't what they got into the industry for. Yeah. That person taking them from $100 session to clients for $25K and $10K per client.
Yeah, and guys, this is what Shent works with there.
100%. So that's something that I invested into my own mentors to learn for myself. And I would say if I think about that one person that I've created the most profound result for, they would all fall into that category. I can see a handful of past clients that were experienced personal trainers that really had a passion that wanted to change lives, but that it's not what they were seeing, it's not what they were experiencing. And that big jump into learning how and why to put clients in a position to really transform rather than another meal plan or another training program. That's equated to amazing things in their life and their clients' lives.
Yeah, and guys, this is not just like $25K for like a 2-year thing. It's like literally like a 6-week gig, right?
That's
this
it.
Sort of thing.
Like, I've had guys do a 45-minute boxing session for 10 grand.
What? Wow.
Three of my clients actually done
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Oh, that is incredible. That's incredible. So, talk us through that evolution. How does one go from? Because I want to get to your story, and because this is, I think, going to sort of foreshadow exactly what your story is about. How do you actually take individuals from that place where they're charging, maybe even less than $100 a session to charging $10,000 for a 45-minute session?
Yeah, I would
Talk us through
say
that.
the thing that was drilled into me to help me do it firstly was transformation, not information. So serve a transformation, don't sell information. And if you really do think about it, right, when someone comes into a gym and they want to lose weight, and we'll use the gym example, they're going to sit down with a personal trainer, and the personal trainer is going to talk to them about their goals. And their goals are going to be, I want to lose 10 kgs in 10 weeks. So then we're like, okay, cool. That will probably, you're going to need to do this, this, and this, and it will be 2 sessions a week for the next. So you're already breaking down their goal into time and sessions. But instead of looking at the other spectrum of what does that 10 kgs mean to you, who do you need to become to lose those 10 kgs? Who will you be after those 10 kgs? And the big question is, how much is that transformation worth to you? If you shape it right, you begin to understand a client's transformation is priceless.
Yeah.
And when you can convey it in that point and get the client to understand it, then the client is in a position where they understand that, hey, I've tried personal trainers before. I've tried meal plans before. I've put $100 into here, $50 into here. But what's going to get you committed? Is that transformation worth another $100 where you may fall off? Or is it worth potentially a large sum that's going to make you very uncomfortable to the point it has to work this time? You've made a commitment, right, to change. You've given up something. You've let go of something that's reflected the level of your commitment. And that understanding of doubling down on the client's transformation, and it's not about the coach's worth, but it's about how much that client's transformation is worth. So shifting the perspective to your client and what it's worth to them is the 100% place where to start that shift.
It's incredible. And the beautiful thing about this is this optimizes the coach's ability to serve the client, doesn't it? So it actually works both ways. I mean, I know there's a lot of contradicting concepts that can come into mind in terms of I'm ripping the person off, like I don't deserve this much money, all these sort of limiting aspects that can come into play. So speak on, firstly, what does that enable the coach in order to serve the client in terms of that investment? Like how much different is the potential of the client's growth when they're just investing $100 compared to maybe, when that client invests $10,000?
Definitely. I think the big thing to reiterate is commitment factor, right? So when a client does invest a large sum of money as a reflection of their commitment, you're going to notice a very different client. It's not a client you're chasing up. It's not a client you're convincing. You're wanting their goal more than they want it themselves. That's something that I started to notice a lot, right? It's almost like you have to do, you don't even really need to do much. You're doing the bare minimum, but just navigate the ship towards the North Star. And you're really being a coach or a guide, in my opinion, right? And what does that do when you're receiving the money? Because that's the thoughts, man. When I started getting $25,000 per client, $50,000 in a day, you go through a little bit of crisis. Like, do I need this? Am I ripping them off? I've asked myself the question many times, right? But understand that money is not for you. It's for your mission. It's going back into the business of service. So that allows you as your business and your brand to flourish even more, to reach out and put more people in a position to transform, rather than playing the little game of serving information.
Oh, that's so good.
And putting a Band-Aid on the real problem.
Yes. So what would you say to those people that are like, well, okay, so I'm a coach, or, I'm a personal trainer, or whatever they're doing. I want to charge more, but I don't believe that I'm worth or valued at this specific amount. And one of the things you mentioned, of course, was, okay, shift it from what it is that they're giving me to what it is I'm giving them, in terms of shifting it. Okay, well, how much am I worth? No. Okay, how much is their transformation worth? And I love those points. But maybe what is another thing that they can start to do if they do have those limiting beliefs in terms of, man, I just don't know if I can do it. What do you say then?
Honestly, there's two routes I can say. The first thing I'll touch on, and then I'll add the other one on the end, is, have you made that level of commitment yourself? And that's tough.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
It's very easy to want to charge more, to receive more, to make more, to take more. But what have you given? Have you given something on that same level of energetic exchange, right?
Yes.
And that's something that I've...
That's what money is, right? It's literally just energy. It's a
100%.
means. It's not a goal. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mirror, right? Whatever you show the mirror is what you're going to get. So if you're showing the mirror $100 and then you're asking the mirror for 10,000, you're getting $100, you know? Totally aside from the money, like the fact of the money. So I would say, look at what level of commitment you've put yourself in, and maybe find someone who's done that, you know, whether it's myself, whether it's you, whether it's somebody else out there. If there's someone that is doing what you're doing, commit into them yourself, so you know what all-in commitment feels like. And then there's no incongruence when you're speaking about that commitment to your client, right? And secondly, when you're going through a commitment like that, let's just say you're doing it the solo route. Maybe your commitment or investment is not into a mentor, but into a thing. And you're a lone ranger. I wouldn't really recommend that. Always get a guide, right? But when you're a lone ranger, the ability to observe your thoughts is make or break. Because when you take a big uncomfortable jump, right, as we know, fear is a big factor. Everything in your mind, from your thoughts to keep you safe, to keep you who you are, to protect your old paradigms. And if you don't have a level of separation and stillness and awareness to see the dialogue going on in your mind, it's going to be a very interesting ride.
Yeah. Interesting. Also meaning inhibiting, right?
100%. You go in a circle for a long time to realize you could have stepped off the treadmill. You know?
Yes. Until, of course, I know you know this very well. I know this very well. Until the suffering of endless, mindless pursuit and same result just brings too much suffering. To the point where it's actually, I can't do this anymore. I need to change.
That's it.
And
sometimes we need to go through that suffering too to come to that point, right?
Well, I definitely wouldn't be on the path that I'm
Likewise.
on now. 100%. Yeah, if it wasn't for that. So I feel with that, brother. So now let's get to your story. I'd love to invite you to share a little bit about, firstly, where things started for you. Of course, talk a little bit about your family, because I think that's important to bring into play here based on what you've shared with me. And then also guide us through the stages of both your business growth alongside your personal development growth. And I would love to hear how that's mirrored, because I think that's so crucial here on this podcast.
Amazing, man. This is going to be cool for me to reiterate, because one thing that's been a powerful thing in my chapter recently is seeing my story for what it was, but also realizing that as much as I am my story, I'm also not my story, you know? So it's almost like, as I share with you guys, it almost feels like it'll be the last time I own this story. Because in past podcasts, I've said that this story is why I'm the way I am. But I realized the story got me to a point that I was able to see through the story to become who I really am.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, man, where do I start? Family migrated to New Zealand from Malaysia. Mum, dad, and older brother. They're all Malaysian born, so I was the first Kiwi in the house, right? So it was very interesting for me. I always felt like an outsider, even in my own family. I would bring the Kiwi vibes back into the household, and you know, my parents and my brothers like, what is this? You know, Asian, Indian families, there's a lot of like, you can't say this, you can't do that, but I was breaking all of those rules. So I was always rebellious, outcasted, left, misunderstood, even in my own household. And when I was out playing with my friends, I was the brown kid, right? In a white school, and you know, to start things off. So I always felt like I wanted to fit in with them. So there was always this ability that I acquired or developed, I should say, very early on, at least by the age of 5 or 6. Because I remember going into primary school and thinking like, I feel like an outcast, right? By the time I was 6 or 7, I had a group of friends around me. And I didn't know this ability that I developed that continued to serve me all through my adulthood, right? So I had a group of friends. I was living as a general Kiwi kid. Things started to shift. The big thing that rattled everything, I was 10 years old now. And I remember all I used to do in my spare time is either play outside or play computer games. So I was playing computer games and my brother was on the PlayStation behind me, and my mum came in and said, hey, I just found something under my armpit in the shower. Me and your dad are going to go to the hospital, a doctor, and just check it out. I'm thinking nothing of it. I'm deep inside my game. Yeah, cool. Can we get KFC tonight? You know, like, I'm just a kid.
Yeah.
I'm a kid.
Yeah, totally, man.
Right?
Totally.
And I remember them taking unusually long to come back. And when they did come back, my mum stood in the doorway for a while and just like watched me and my brother. I could see her in my peripherals, but I was so immersed in these games at this point.
What were you playing?
Man, I don't remember the specific game because what I used to do was I would piracy laws. Wait,
10-year-old you was a ninja. Eh?
I used to download about 10 to 20 ROMs a day for
like the
GBA, SNES, Genesis, and on dial-up, so I'd leave them overnight so no one picks up the phone. And then throughout the day, I'll do a full playthrough. A full playthrough on, if you know what frame skip is, you press the plus button and you play it on 10x.
Yes.
So I would 10x games, 10 games a day, every day for years. Wow. Right? So
I mean, miles ahead of all the other kids.
100%.
Wow.
That's why like gamification for me is on another level now.
So good.
So I was frame skipping something as I do.
Yeah.
Funny, it brought back that memory. No one's asked me that question. And I remember mum said something to my brother and then those two were crying. And we don't show emotion in the household.
How old was your brother at the time?
He would have been 14.
Okay, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so a lot more of conceptual understanding there.
That's it. They were crying, and it was almost so uncomfortable because we don't show emotion in an Asian household that, like, we don't say "I love you" or hug or anything.
Yeah,
right. That I just sort of like stayed out of it. I just pretended nothing was going on and frame skipped my game. And I sort of heard my mum say something like, "Doctor said I have cancer." But I remember hearing that, and I remember hearing my mum's star sign was Cancer. So I was like, what are you talking about? You've always been Cancer.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah,
so I didn't understand.
No conceptual understanding,
Nah. But I remember that clear thing of like, why are you tripping out that she's got cancer?
Yeah.
She's always been a Cancer, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And then the treatment started. And even still, like, I don't know what's going on. I think she's just sick and she's going to the doctors. Since she used to babysit me, as in like, you know, I can't stay by myself at home, and sometimes my brother will go to his friend's house. I used to go with her to all of her chemotherapy treatments and whatnot. And even just thinking back then, man, it was an innocence to it. Like I didn't understand. I had no conceptual understanding of this severity, if you want to call it, of what is going on and what it would lead to. When did it start getting serious, man? Is like, if you fast forward now, okay, she beats cancer 1 year. So now I'm 11. She has the surgery, gets the lumps removed. Doctor says, all clear, congratulations. You just got to come every 6 months. 12 years old, I go with her to her checkups. It's all good. You're amazing. Congrats. 13 years old, go to the checkups. You're all good. Amazing. Congrats. 14 years old, start of the year, go to the checkup. Oh, we found something. Let's just do a little bit of a check on this. It's just a normal procedure. They go and look into that, and they're like, this is how I conveyed it. I don't know how they actually said it, but something was missed in the first surgery when I was 10 for her. And that spread everywhere, and she's got 6 months to live. Boom.
Wow, and it would have hit you then properly then as well.
Still, I didn't understand because man, I was just going to the hospitals all the time. I thought, okay, cool, so we just got to do some more of these little weird things, you know. But I remember there was a weird, a very interesting energy in the air when it came to desperation. Now, like it wasn't just a normal surgery, but my dad and my mum would research things online and be trying all of these new things and. There was a whole lot of exploration with pranic healing and
so they did
herbal medicines.
Alternative,
definitely. And my dad was a Hindu devotee for a lot of years, so he was doing a lot of the pranic healing himself. And I was observing all of that, and the deterioration started now. So, her hospital visits became more and more frequent, and the big one was all the moments in my life I'm playing games. So now I'm playing games. I'm 14 years old, playing Final Fantasy VII.
Okay, you remember this one?
Yeah, I remember that one vividly. I remember the soundtrack of it. To the point I couldn't listen to that soundtrack every time I listened to that soundtrack, like 28, 29 years old, I would get into tears instantly. I didn't know what it was until I done some inner work.
Connection,
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was playing Final Fantasy. My dad was sleeping on the ground behind me. Mum was sleeping on the couch. Mum gets up and she goes, says my name, and she goes, "Have you eaten?" And I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "Good." And then she lays back down, and then I start hearing a groaning, like a weird. I've not heard that sound before. And I look behind me, and she's having a seizure on the couch now.
Oh.
And I'm panicking.
Yeah.
14, so I wake my dad up.
Totally.
And we let her do a thing with a seizure because obviously don't know what to do. Don't touch her. Ring an ambulance. Gets taken to hospital, and that was the last time she was ever in our house.
Wow.
So probably another 2-3 months was a stay in hospital, and that was just hospital visits started to happen. More deterioration. Me and my brother would take turns of going to see my mum.
Yeah.
And then one day, I remember asking my mum, asking my family, "How's mum?" And they go, "She was a bubbly person, always smiling loud, really loud, like laughter, etc." Right? So yeah, she was her. She's being herself.
Yeah.
The next day, we got a call that she slipped into a coma. And I always had this little thing of like, man, I wish I was there that day. Because I got the option.
Yeah.
My brother and my dad was like, "Do you want to come today?" I'm like, "No, I'll just see you tomorrow."
Right.
And that was a little regret that I owned for a while, right?
I feel that. Yeah.
So all of this started to degrade, and then family from Malaysia started to come. And then October 24th or 25th, we got a call at about 4 a.m. And it was the doctors saying things aren't looking good, come into the hospital. So we went into the hospital. At this point, my mum was deteriorated so much that there was fluid in her lungs. So when you're walking down the ward on the way to a room, you can almost hear someone drowning in their own fluid. It was horrific. I can still hear that noise. And it sounded like pain with every single breath. So I remember walking into that groan, and it was like, as really bad at this point. And the doctors said, like, "Hey, this is the state of it. Like, if you want, we'll just cut the life support now." And we said, "Yeah, let's do that decision."
Wow.
Cut the life support, waited.
What
and
was going through you at that time?
Man, I was in shock, I think.
Yeah.
I couldn't process any of this, bro.
Yeah. So were you very understanding of exactly what was happening at the time?
Yeah, almost too understanding. Like, why am I not feeling anything?
Wow.
Yeah. I wasn't crying, no tears, this whole point. I think I'd been conditioned like the last 4 years of hospital, etc. So I'm thinking this is normal.
Yeah, and also as well, by the sounds of it as well, conditioned to not show emotion as well.
That's it. Because my dad's not crying, my brother's not crying. No one is expressing. Wow. No one's expressing. And then, yeah, man, like you just wait there. Anyone that's been with a loved one when you cut life support, it's interesting, bro. She'd been in a coma. She hadn't opened her eyes for like 3-4 weeks at this point. And then she opened her eyes. So she opened her eyes, her breath started getting softer. She opened her eyes, and when she opened her eyes, the whole family sort of went around her. Yeah. And she took 3 deep breaths, looking at everybody, and then the last deep breath was the last deep breath. I remember that breath, and I remember the look in her eyes. And then everyone obviously cried, expressed, took some time with her. And the weird part about that, man, you go back home, the family stays with you for a little bit extra, a week or two. They go back to Malaysia. You go back to school. Life is normal, just one person's missing now. And I remember laying in bed every day thinking like, do I mean to cry? What do I feel? Like, I don't know. And that started playing a big factor in the rest of my life, man. So like at that point, I think the suppression led to depression and anger and frustration. Yes. I didn't know how to let it out, so I just stopped applying myself. I was a kid that used to get like 95% in maths tests. Yes. I remember the first maths test after I got 7%.
What?
Yeah. It's like a noticeable something is up here, right? And everyone sort of thought it was funny. Obviously, I'm not going to show my dad because I'm scared. Yeah. I might get a hiding or something like that, right? Asian parents, like,
what kind of hiding do you get in that?
Man, like
spoon. What was?
Yeah. Anything under the body, like he would normally use his hand, but my mum was actually the one to use belts and the weapons.
The weapons. Yeah.
So I just went down, bro. 7%, 12%, 5%, 4%.
Wow.
Didn't care as well. I started to think it was cool to get that.
Yeah.
And then I started to feel lost again. Yeah. I felt like no one understood me. I felt like my friend circles didn't get me. I felt weak. I was small. I felt alone. What did I start to see is I started to see certain people in my neighborhood and in my area that people feared, right? People feared because they're probably going to get robbed by these dudes, you know? And I got infatuated by it like any young kid does. I wanted that fear. I wanted that power, or what I perceived as power. I thought that was my answer.
Yeah. So was this from a place of self-insignificance and seeking significance?
Definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Seeking a voice, seeking what I thought to be power.
Yeah. And would you say that's from that depression that was coming through from the suppression you'd experienced from your mum passing?
100%.
Wow. Yeah.
100%, man. And I honestly wanted to
pause on that please. Yeah, because I feel like that there's so much juice in that, right? I mean,
gotcha.
I spent a lot of my life with exact same sort of things. Like it wasn't really one specific event in my life. It was like a compilement of a whole lot of different little events, you know, from rejection to passings in the family, to you know, having my heart broken, to constant failure in school. Man, I was similar, man. I was below average in my school for a while because of depression. Constantly not able to create great associations because of my disassociation that also having. Couldn't really associate myself, couldn't be present with people, constantly in my head. And that created like this concept of suppression led to a lot of depression in my life, and then that just bounced out and created even less ideal situations around me because I wasn't able to show up, and then that again cycled back to more depression, and it's just like this crazy constant cycle. So I feel like so many people can probably relate to that listening, and I feel like that's such a beautiful thing to touch on, is the connection between that sort of seek for significance and that sense of self-insignificance, and that factor of I think it's a great as well understanding for people to help people feel a little bit more free when people try seek significance through the exploitation of you. Right. So as being able to see, oh, wow, that person's probably very feeling self-insignificant, and being able to see that grants some sense of freedom for me when I can see the other person suffering through their anger and through their frustration and through their exploitation that they're showing. I think that's a really beautiful concept of freedom to understand, right? Yeah.
Beautiful, bro. Beautifully said. Like, even as you say that, I come to realize that, you know, when something traumatic happens in our life and we don't know how to process or allow or face in a healthy way our emotions and our thoughts, suppression occurs, and that suppression leads to a feeling of insignificance and almost like a void inside ourselves, right? And then not knowing how to go within ourselves to face that void and realize that the void is almost an illusion. We look to fulfill that void externally. And that sends us on these weird pursuits that majority of us are on for a lifetime.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. And then that led you to that seeking of significance. So that's when you seek these, you know,
exactly. Exactly, man.
Talk to us about that.
Man. It's funny because that seek of significance that led me to those guys actually led me to everything. As you said in the start of the question, that was my pursuit in business too. But if I go a stage at a time, right? I seeked significance externally, thinking that would close up the void within me, right? So one of those avenues was being around a group of people that had respect, thinking that would give me respect or give me power. So that led me into, you know, a group of friends that you could label as a gang. And I guess with the kinds of things we were getting up to, you could definitely call it a criminal organization. And when you seek these external things and you get a little bit of a temporary feeling of significance, you go all into it.
Oh yeah, there's an addiction factor there, right?
100%, 100%.
It's like with anything, it's like being a bully, if you will. Like, I mean, I definitely had moments in middle school when these factors, even in junior school, man, when I would verbally bully someone out of not even really understanding it was bullying. It was just I'm going to make fun of this person because I've been made fun of, and I didn't
Yes.
feel good for me. I want to feel better about myself. I'm going to, you know, and it was like this flow-on effect, and I didn't even know what was doing it. Same as in middle school. I was like, I mean, I say that it definitely wasn't as severe as it sounded. It was quite literally like a sort of passing comment or something like that. But it was terrible. You know, when I think about it, I felt guilty about that. But it was for that sort of seeking of self-significance for sure. So yeah, I love that you highlighted on that, man. I can totally relate. Yeah.
And it's funny how we can put labels of positive, interesting, I should say, labels of positive and negative on these external things we seek, right? Like a lot of mine was negative at first, as in going down the path of gangs, going down the path of street life and everything that comes with that, going down the path of violence, even going down the path of females in a negative sense.
Yeah.
In terms of just looking at them as objects, looking at just getting that one thing out of them.
Totally.
And, you know, eventually all of those parts of negative, I started to live a very negative life.
Yeah.
And that led me to self-reflection and, you know, books finding me, and the first, I would say, moments of introspection that made me realize that I'm living a negative life.
Wow.
I'm choosing this.
Yeah.
I remember this one quote, now that I say that. This is probably the first one I saw. There's a positive in every negative situation.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Right?
Totally.
As simple as that was, the fact that I had realized I'm living a negative life, and I'm like, you know, how is there a positive in any of what I'm facing right now, right?
Yeah.
That was early days. So 2012, I came to that realization, and now I started going through my negative life, choosing to see the positive in each moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is actually a pretty sweet life.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing started happening is all of the negatives started moving itself out of the way.
Wow.
And positive things started to happen.
Wow.
And then, funny thing, I'm like, okay, cool. So this positive part is the way that's going to make me feel better. But the positive external things.
Yeah. Totally.
That's what I thought. So I was like, all right, cool. So instead of being in the streets doing this, I can be in business and do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead of using females for just sex, I can be in relationships and have love.
Yes.
So I didn't know it at the time, but I separated my, you know, external desires into other external desires.
Wow.
Right?
Yes, yes.
And now I shifted my pursuit into these positive external desires. Yes. So now I'm 24, feeling positive, wanting to make other people feel positive.
Yes.
Started to become a personal trainer.
Yes.
Started to read books about entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Started to explore females more.
Yes.
I started to feel, you know, one night stands and flings were empty. And I wanted to actually get into a relationship and be vulnerable.
Yes.
And face those things of saying I love you and
wow.
giving someone a hug.
And what was that like, coming from a place where you suppressed all of that before and you didn't even hear that in your family? What was that like? Talk to us about how that inhibited you first, and then secondly, how did you transform?
Yes, man. I would say how it inhibited me first was I was so lost in living a story.
Yeah.
That I was the story. You know, my story was,
yes.
I told myself a story in my mind. My parents never said this, so I can't do this.
Yes, totally.
So it feels uncomfortable when this happens. Yeah. I was the mind. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I was the mind. I was the thoughts. I was the story. So I remember, like, one of my first long terms, she would always say, I love you, and look in my eyes, and I'd feel like, and I would own my story to be like, I can't say it. Like, I can't say
really?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'd.
And how was that received?
She received it more so like it was something wrong with her.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. And I've been in a situation where I've been on the other end of that.
Interesting.
You know? Yeah. Quite literally, that was when I was living in Quebec, about 2.5 years ago during the peak of my anxiety, and was with one of the most wonderful people I've ever met. Honestly, I was in a relationship with her, and I know that she struggled with those words herself. And I'd share them from my end, but she couldn't. And I know that, it's interesting hearing from someone's point of view, going through that experience and understanding there's something so much deeper beneath that, because I took that very personally.
Yeah.
I just felt like, wow, she doesn't love me, but that was not really the truth. And I knew it deep down, but I, at the time, required so much external validation that I couldn't feel it. So yeah, I love that you're sharing that, brother. Yeah. Yeah,
man. And even still, I think the biggest method of freedom for me from that, like even my partner now, she may see this and probably laugh, because she knows. When I say I love you, it'll be like, I'll say a lot of things in a slow pace. So they'll be like, yeah, good night. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. And yeah, I love you. Slide it in there real quick. But the beauty is, like, I don't require myself to say it any differently. It doesn't make me more or less. I'm just cool with that. Is just the human mind's story. And if that story meant to change, it will change. But I also do know that in the change, sometimes you can even change your story so much that you lose yourself. You know, like, I am who I am, right? But at the same time, I know the place of the mind. But
so what was the shift there that helped you to be able to be a bit more expressive with that?
Man, honestly, exploration. If I had to break that word down, you know, all that shift was from negative external to positive external. It was always an exploration, right? Bring it all the way back. When I was a kid, when we were all kids, we explored this amazing life, right? We have fun. We're out there learning new things. Like, this is what this does. This is what happens when we fall over, etc. This is what a bike is. This is what colors are. And at some point, the exploration stops, right? Because we got to become adults now. And I felt that exploration for me stopped quite early at 14, I should say. When it's almost like, honestly, I felt like I had to get my life together now because you got to organize what happened with your mum. So then I tried to find who I was down that path. I tried to find who I was down this path. And, you know, the positive path even led me to heights in business and certain reoccurring patterns in relationships, reoccurring patterns in business too, where I would reach milestones and points and feel exactly the same, aka empty. And I didn't know what was wrong. Like, what am I looking for then? The question is, what is my purpose, right? Why am I here? Do I want to live? All of those thoughts, right?
Yeah, I resonate.
And every time I almost faced that point of like, what's the point? Right? I would be like, come on, Shent, just keep going. Just focus on this next milestone. Get to the milestone, feel the same. What's the point? Next milestone. So I was stuck in this interesting loop. And I'm curious, man, because I feel the awakening, right? Happens so uniquely for everybody.
Yes.
And I honestly feel like it's not a choice. It finds you. Right? You come to a point in life where something happens and it finds you through a person, through a tree, through a book, through a moment, in a moment. And it found me through one of my mentors, a guy called Steve Pabst Sr.
And talk a bit about him, actually.
Please. Please. So this guy, funny story. I think I've told you this, Steve, if you ever watch it. So I was personal training at this point, 27 years old, doing ARX. So I had like a startup that was valuated at $1 million.
And this is where I met him.
This is where I met Kieran. And I was enjoying the character I was playing, because this character made me feel powerful because he was doing things. He was positive. He was successful. He had a good body. He was emotionally open, but he was still a mask. He was still a character. But I enjoyed playing him, right? So I was playing this guy, thinking I don't have an ego. So one of my clients, maybe in about, I think, January, start of the year, comes up and he's like, she was like, Shent, what is this? Show me a flyer for like a body scan and a meal plan. I was at Club Physical Birkenhead at the time, so we had a competitor gym right next to us, Just Workout, right? And it was a trainer from Just Workout had put their flyers in our gym. So
wow.
in my mind, I was like, the audacity, you know? my ego was like, how dare you? So I'm like, but I don't want to show that to my clients. So I'm like, oh, what is this? And I'm like, God, don't worry about that. I'll just make you a meal plan myself, you know?
Deep down, you're like, I'm going to kill this.
Exactly. And I'm like, my old hood mentality was like, should I ring this dude and be like, yo, you passing shit to my client? You know? So I saw that in like January, and I saw the name Steve Pabst, and I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll make you a meal plan. And then some things started revealing over the next couple of months of where that ego was stopping me from opportunities and how I didn't want to collaborate with people because I'm the man. Once I started to see through all of that, about 6 months later, I'm walking into my gym and I look down at like where all the flyers are, and it catches my attention again. And I'm like, I'm going to ring this dude. So this time was a different call, right? I rang him with the open collaboration. So I go, hey man, I've seen your flyers in our gym, etc., etc. Let's catch up. Let's maybe partner. I'd love to give you some clients so you can handle their nutrition and I just focus on what I do best. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's meet at Junction Cafe in Birkenhead. It's like, cool. So my thought process, I'm going to meet a guy to collaborate as a personal trainer and a nutrition with a nutritionist. So I got a nutritionist under my belt that I can refer clients to. That was what I thought this was going to be. Went there, see Steve. Hey man, how you doing? We talk about life for a bit and like what we do. He tells me a random story about his life that he used to be in security. He made a lot of money in security, like I think like $500,000 per contract or per client. Ended up achieving an amazing house, got a Ferrari, everything. Lost all of it. And the moral of the story was his thoughts. This is technically what I get now. His thoughts acquired his wealth and his thoughts lost his wealth.
Whoa, yes.
And now his thoughts are rebuilding things from a much more aware standpoint. Yeah. And then that was over and we're like, it's already been an hour. Hey, maybe we'll talk about this nutrition stuff later. So now I'm like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
You know, what was that?
Yeah.
I've been chasing Ferraris and mansions and all this money. And this guy talked about thoughts. You know, I've been searching strategies. And what strategy? Like, am I looking at the wrong thing here? But what the identity does, man, is like, that's junk. Just carry on doing what you're doing. My paradigm my ego didn't want to hear that.
Yeah, and that's back to the concept of being on that wheel, eh?
That's it.
You still didn't see the opportunity because you're so stuck in that process. Yeah, I resonate with this so strongly.
Right, and it's so addictive to stay on that wheel because it's self-gratifying, but it's like an illusion.
Yeah,
it's like right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this episode. I think it's Simpsons. Random tangent. Or it's Futurama. Someone's eating like a holographic steak. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like Homer, but yeah.
I think it is Homer.
Okay.
And he's like taking a bite going, It's literally that. It's literally that. You're taking a bite thinking it's tasting good, but you're actually not eating anything. That's what that wheel feels like.
Right. I love that.
So that was the catch up with Steve. And I said we'll catch up about a week later.
Yeah.
Funny how what happened in that week. I was so close to canceling this meeting with him because I was juggling so much. Yeah. My businesses, personal training, relationships, that you know those days where you're so burnt out and overwhelmed and you can't even face people, right? And it feels like your eyes are sunken in and you're feeling like a skeleton, like you're feeling so naked that people can see all of your flaws. It was one of those days. But that was how I needed to be for this to ever happen in that moment. Yeah. So I was going to cancel, but something said don't. Because my thoughts are dominating me. And this guy's talking about thoughts, right? And that's the way to success, but it's stopping me from success. I just need to go sit there and see what happens. Like, F it, you know? So I went and sat there. I'm trying to hide how I'm feeling. I can feel this guy seeing straight through me. And he's just like, how are you today? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. And I think he could see that I was so busy chasing something.
Right.
So, again, I'm here to talk about the nutrition. Or I don't even know why I'm sitting here. I think he asked me, so why are we sitting here? And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, all right, how much do you make per week? That's what he asked me. I said about $700. 700 to 1,000. I was just making that much, turning it over.
Yeah. And what did you feel when you got asked that question as well? Do you remember?
Oh, man, I would say at this point I wasn't portraying that I was making more. Okay, so you know what I'm saying? It sort of was like I actually felt relieved. I felt relieved, man. I felt relieved that I could actually tell someone where I'm at.
I see.
As in, like, I'm willing to receive your help. Like, obviously you've made a lot of money. Let me be real with you. So I just told him about $700, and he goes, "Cool." He goes, "How much of that do you have every week, like, left over?" I go, "Nothing, like paycheck to paycheck." Even though I'm running my own business, even though I'm growing this other business, every bit of money that comes in goes into another business. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere, right? So he done this drill with me. He goes, all right, you see this table in front of us. Can you picture $50,000 on this table? Oh, wow. I just realized I made it. Crazy. I just made a realization then.
Okay. Yes.
Took a couple of years, but it actually worked. So he goes, can you imagine, or share that after, can you imagine $50,000 on this table?
Yeah.
And I looked at the table and I go, yeah. And he goes, touch it. And I go, okay. So I'm like grabbing out and feeling like stacks of bundles of like 50s and 100s. And he goes, awesome. So if this $50,000 becomes real in 24 hours, and the only catch, and it's yours, the only catch is you got to come up with $500 by the end of the day. Are you going to be able to come up with $500 paycheck to paycheck? And I go, I don't know. And he goes, well, do you want $50,000? And I go, yeah. And then he goes, cool. And he goes, good luck. Got up, walked off. And I'm sitting there like, what do I do? Like, and then I'm like, oh shit, I got a meeting. So as I'm walking back to my car, I can see my mind piecing together how to get $500, right? Keep in mind, I'm paycheck to paycheck at $700 at this point. By the end of the nights, I end up with an additional $1,400.
What?
I just made up all of these plans of pre-selling nutrition programs and getting clients to pay advanced and upcoming packages and dropping the price in a few hours.
Whoa.
And then I'd done that and I told Steve, hey man, I made $1,400. And he goes, cool. That $500 was for your first week of mentoring. Let's begin. And that's when everything started to change. So that was November 2017.
What did you have any resistance come up, or you're like,
the fact that he got me to see $1,400 that I couldn't see, and I'm working so hard, that was all I needed to see.
I love that.
You know?
Yeah.
And then the journey began, man. Started investing into him, learnt more about energy, universe, frequencies, vibrations. Whatever inner state I'm in is what I'm going to see into this world. If I'm in a state of abundance, I'm going to see abundance. Yeah. If I feel opportunities truthfully, wholeheartedly, I will see opportunities. And opportunities will seek me, because what we're seeking is actually seeking us, right?
Yes.
And man, fast track. Up until now, what has happened, I went from a $50 personal trainer to charging $25,000 over a 45-minute chat for a single client. Yeah. I've done that numerous times. I've built an amazing team of coaches, taken a lot of other people there. A different joy seeing another person achieve those kind of numbers and results when you do. It almost feels better, which is powerful, and a lot of truth as well. Yes. Because with the money came a lot of things being revealed and seeing through the illusion of money, and it's almost like the external pursuit had come to an end. And I realized I was always here. But it took reaching a couple places to realize that. So, man, that's probably the short version of my story.
Yeah.
But I'd love to share anything else from here.
Oh, absolutely, brother. So, if I was to ask you, what would have been the top 3 life lessons that you've gained over the period of that whole story, which is just an absolutely mind-blowing story? Well, what would be the top 3 life lessons that you've taken away that you would say if you were to meet your, say, 20-year-old self and say, yeah,
I would say
20-year-old self still in that,
Yeah. The funny thing about this is the things coming to my mind are the things you probably hear every single day on social media. It's like, man, they must go over our head. Trust the process and patience, firstly.
Yeah. And there's a difference between knowing that and experiencing that.
Yes.
Huge difference. Because it's the same with the awakening thing. Like, people think, oh, I'm awakened, but like intellectually thinking I'm awakened is not actually experiencing the awakening itself. And by the way, just touch on, what do you mean by awakening? Because I think that's important to touch on.
Good question.
Yeah, because I know people will be like, awakening, woo-woo stuff.
Yeah. How would I explain awakening is being able to see through the illusion of life.
Oh, straight up. Yeah. Or the illusion of mind.
That's it. Like, being able to see, like, all right, how I see Kieran right now, like Shent's thoughts on Kieran. Okay, he's a humble guy. He's I've known him for a while. He's real happy. He's awakened. He's in the same industry as me. He's my friend. All of those concepts that shape Kieran is based on my conceptual understanding of Kieran.
Because there'll be another, Joe blog that is like, Kieran's a dickhead.
Exactly,
I hate Kieran.
exactly.
Yeah. He's such a schemist, like all this.
That's it. But the thing is, Kieran is the same to me and that other guy. So when you see past that illusion of however you perceive everything in your life is based on your conceptualization, I feel that is the awakening.
Love it. I randomly said to a client, just out of just in the flow of a conversation we're having, and I just said, perception is conditioning. There's a lot out there that says change your perception, like look from a different angle. Well, how about look at all angles?
Yes.
What if you took away all lenses and just saw things as they were, rather than looking from one side of the mountain and being like, that's not climbable, right? What happens if you went to the other side? Oh, that's not climbable either. Oh, the other side. Oh, geez, that's difficult. I might be able to do it, right? So maybe changing the perception might give you a better approach, but it doesn't give you a lens of all approaches. However, if you're sitting on top of that mountain, and you're looking down, you can see all angles, all pathways. You can start to see, that way that I was thinking was probably a good way. It probably isn't as practical as this way. This way looks a bit better, right? So if you're on top of the mountain, you can see all angles. And there's no perception there. There's no from one side or the other side, or the left side or the right side. There's no changing in perception. There's simply removal of perception and seeing things as they are. And that for me is awakening, right? That for me is seeing things without a lens, without mind, and simply seeing things simply as they are. So so you feel awakening, sort of that.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. And this concept of connecting with the truth of the fact that if I think I'm awakened, I'm probably not. It's not like the concept of thinking about awakening.
Yeah.
It's something that I don't really even think about, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's just an experiential thing.
I like how you touch on that, because an awakening isn't a destination. It's a continually shifting journey. It's almost like the lens of the mountain, right? Once we can see the mountain, or we're at the top of the mountain, it's almost like the season changes every moment of every day of the mountain, right? So if you're like, yeah, cool, I'm awakened, in the next minute or second, the terrain of the mountain is going to look drastically different. So it's awakening is a place of being, right? Being in a present moment, and being in an awakened state. It's a state of being rather than a thing you acquire or an accolade or achievement you take.
Totally. So it's definitely not a conceptual thing. Which brings us back to the concept that what was the first thing that you mentioned to your younger self? Sorry, it was
trust the process and patience.
So that's not a conceptual thing that you think about. It's not like okay, I'm going to trust the process. It's something that needs to be embodied, doesn't it? So how does one go from actually just thinking it when they hear the words or read it on Instagram? Because I've seen this all before, I've heard this all before. How does one connect with that?
I would say the first quote screaming out to me is, everything happens for you, not to you.
Oh,
right?
Oh, yeah.
If you can, and I actually saw something from Gary Vee today, and he was someone that was very early in my journey, but not so much now, right?
Totally.
But even still, he says, fall in love with losing, not just winning, right? Because we can be like, yes, everything is happening for me, not to me, and only apply that to selective areas of our life. Like when things are going bad, it becomes a mechanism for me to handling bad.
Totally.
Instead of actually truly embodying that to the point, thank you for why ever this happened. Someone just cut me off on the road because that person meant to delay me for me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
My camera just died because...
Yeah, and quite literally, guys, we've been interrupted 4 times already on this podcast.
Right?
By the way. We've always sort of regrouped. It's not been a problem.
And even that happened for something even more serviceful or congruent to come out of us. Yeah. To the point, there is no bad or delay or something to get or something to wait for, because that allows you to truly enjoy what is, because there's no label on what is. It just is, right?
So awakened of you, brother.
All right. 100%.
Absolutely, brother.
So that's trusting, embodiment of trusting the process.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. And it brings me back to this understanding of the fact that so long as I'm in fear of suffering, I will only live life in half strides. Yeah. It's only it's only when I no longer fear suffering can I live life in full stride. And that's a beautiful teaching by Sadhguru. And it's something that when I heard that message, it was something that I was actually in a place to connect with that, because I was starting to come to a place, this is about 2 years ago now, where I was actually beginning to understand this concept of moving through the fear of suffering. Like, soon from this point anyway, suffering was going to be something for me that was no longer something I ran away from. It was something that I actually enabled and allowed to flow through me because I was no longer afraid of it. And yeah, that's such a big thing for me. Which, yeah, I just wanted to bounce it off you because I think that's that connects so well. Yeah, beautiful. What would you say would be the second and third thing you'd say?
I would say, secondly, this is coming through me. It's cool to not think and see what comes through you as it does, right? Nothing externally will ever define you or your value. And it's easy to understand that and be like, yeah, I get it, but I'm just going to become a millionaire.
Yeah.
You know? Nothing wrong with that. But once you can see through why you're actually doing what you're doing or going for what you're going for, is there any identification of that is going to make people perceive me like this or make me feel more valuable? And honestly, sometimes you acquiring the thing or suffering to try acquire the thing is going to lead to your truth. So again, back to trusting the process with that, right? Yeah. If you want to become a multimillionaire because you think it's going to make you feel better, right? And some people are telling you to do it and some people are telling you not to do it. Both answers are right. Yeah. You know, you can either not do it and come to your own truth, or you can do it and come to your own truth. But the truth you'll come to at the end of the day through your experience of life is that nothing externally is ever going to validate or define your worth and ultimately you.
So good, brother. So good. And now, say one is understanding of that, like one is connecting with that even. And I know that was something that did take me a while to connect with once upon a time, but I did eventually. How does one start to come to a place where they do no longer require this external validation in order to feel validated within themselves? How does one actually start to make that shift?
Amazing. Good question. I actually probably got this answer about 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Truthfully.
Yes. Oh, I love that you said that. I love that you said that. Yeah. Because I mean, I've in so many points in my life made a conclusion about this is how you do it. That I love that you're still a student always.
Definitely, man. It came through my mentor, and he put it like this. Let's just say your path in life was that you're going to go bankrupt, you're going to go broke, you're going to start pumping gas at the gas station, and not just like some gas station down in the South Island, but the gas station where everybody knows you. Would that change your experience on life? Because now everybody knows Shent's broke. Would that change my experience on life, or would I still be Shent? Or does that change the definition of Shent? Would I be cool with that? Would I be at peace with that? He asked me this maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and I was like, yeah, I'll be at peace, but I wouldn't allow that to happen. So like, no, you know. But the weirdest thing about it is when he asked me, probably about 2 weeks ago, I'd come to peace with it in the sense that I visualized, all right, cool, I'm putting on that orange high-vis, and one of my mates pulled up, and I'm going to put in their gas. I still got my smile, I still got my humor. I go, hey, what's up, bro? You need some gas? Cool. Go get a chocolate bar. Go get a protein. I would still be me, and I'm like, wow, none of this. I don't need any of this to be me anymore. To the point I can truly start enjoying this, and that's the power is when it doesn't define you truthfully anymore. By exploring worst case scenarios, you got nothing, you're homeless, whatever. Like, can you be peaceful like that? Then everything is a blessing. You can truthfully enjoy it without it dominating or defining you.
So good, brother. So good. What's the third?
Man, I got a favor. Can you ask me the whole question again, and I'll give you the third one?
Beautiful. I love it, because then it can come through you, right?
Yeah.
Out of the 3 biggest lessons that you've learned along your story, what is the third thing that you would share to your 20-year-old self?
Have fun.
So good. Why?
Got it.
Why was having fun so important?
If you're enjoying yourself, your enjoy is being in joy. And a state of joy is a state of love. It's full, it's fulfilling, it's happiness, it's presence, it's peace.
Now speak to the logical minded. Why is that important?
put it like this: if you're trying to be successful in life, if you're working on your spirituality, that's funny, right? If you're working on your dream body, if you're working on business, and you're not having fun, you're not in a state of joy, you're going to be in a state of stress, a state of resistance, and it doesn't lie. You're going to notice, right? Like, if you're extremely logical when you're watching this, think back to the times that you've been hustling and grinding through a rough point. Have you noticed that it almost just stays rough? Nothing seems to work out when nothing is working out, is because it's a self-fulfilling loop. And normally when that transition happens is when you get to a point of effort and you just start to relax. Like, actually, I don't care how this goes. You relax, you put a smile on your face, bang, suddenly things are starting to work out. So being in a state of joy is honestly one of my biggest grounding factors now. Is I'll be able to catch if Shint is not having fun. And if he's not having fun, I'll take a moment to stop and breathe and be like, hey, is this some sort of suffering that I'm okay to go through, that it's going to lead me to some deeper point of congruence? Or do I feel like this point of suffering is even unnecessary? Am I just doing something and running off with a random tangent of the mind right now? And that's normally 99% of the time. My mind thought this would be a good idea. And now I'm already 10 steps into it unconsciously. And I'm not having fun anymore. I'm like, oh, hold up. Let me stop for a second.
Beautiful. Oh, so good, man. So good. Now, this enjoyment that's been flowing through you, and it is now an able choice. It's actually a choice in your life. Once upon a time, it probably wasn't, right? And I can relate with that big time in terms of I couldn't, people would tell me, bro, just be happy. Like, what do you mean? Like, I was frustrated. I'm like, I can't. Like, something must be wrong with me. Like, that's what I'd tell myself. I was in such a deep state of depression that I felt imprisoned by my own emotions and thoughts and my own perception of reality, which isn't reality, right? And I was stuck in this illusion of the fact that this is the way I've got to live. Like, how can I just be happy? What are they saying? So what would you say to someone like that, who, it was in a state at that point, and they're thinking, I just enjoy, just be in joy, just choose joy? How can one go from depression to being able to choose joy?
So repression leads to depression, or suppression leads to depression, right? I find anybody in that state where it's like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I'm just feeling like this. The only reason you're feeling like this is because you're fighting what you're really feeling. That's it. Like, that's just it. And it doesn't mean you got to show the world all your skeletons and whatnot. Start by showing it to yourself. Start by writing down on a piece of paper every deepest fear you have, right? Or every thought you have in your mind where you're not worthy. Like, I am depressed because my partner cheated on me at this thing and I feel like this. You just putting it smack bang over there rather than don't focus on it, don't focus on it. These things all dominate your life. So I find anyone in a state of depression have so much emotion and thoughts and stories suppressed within themselves that they can't even see it anymore. And it's an unconscious driver of their life, right? So face yourself. And if you don't feel like you can face yourself, be willing to allow someone to guide you to facing yourself, and you will attract that person. I'm not going to tell you to go find someone. If you're willing, that person will find you. That person will pop up on your feed, in your life, at a random cafe, through a flyer on your gym, and literally that person will find you if your heart is willing to accept help.
Yeah, and it's not in the chasing of that, is it? It's in the inviting in. So how does one shift from that to, because you've mentioned this already quite a few times, even off the mic, is the fact that the moment that you've gone from chasing for something, you've just surrendered it. Okay, you know what? It'll come.
Yeah.
How do you just do that? How do you, like, I know you talk about trust the process, but how do you just do that?
I reckon a cool way to look at it is just how I keep my mind in check. Especially in the early days, is to show my mind how much it really doesn't know. Right?
Oh, I love that.
Right? So how do we stop chasing it? How do we just let go and surrender and trust? That implies that we don't know how it's going to happen. So whatever the time is right now, it's probably, 3:15 p.m., right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Is it? Okay, wow, okay.
On the dot.
Okay, there you go.
Brilliant, mate. Well done.
I've got that wrong so many times, but that was my first time.
Guys listening, all right, to just the podcast audio, quite literally did not look at his watch. All right,
I forgot I have a watch. Just trying to look at the time.
Party,
yeah, pretty accessories. But imagine this. Imagine that I could only leave this room. We're looking out a window right now. I could only leave this room when I know exactly when two birds fly past. Right? Like, is it going to be at 3:17? Is it going to be at 3:18? Is it going to be at 3:19? Or let's just say that I can only say what I'm about to say next if I know exactly what Kieran is going to ask me at 3:23 p.m. I'm never going to be able to say what I'm going to say. I don't know. We were interrupted, 4 times? Yeah. I had no idea. So we never know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen the next second you're watching this. No. Your door could get booted down with the cops so you can get raided for no reason if you're in that lifestyle. Sounds experienced, bro. Yeah, hey. Someone could crash into your car outside in about 3 seconds. Anything can happen. Yeah, so understanding that, we really don't know what's happening in this life. We really don't know who's orchestrating it. We really don't know what the next moment brings. So you can't know.
Yeah,
you can't know.
And the only place to expose one to potential triggering and potential suffering is in the assumption of knowing, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah. When I assume I know, the moment that assumed knowing is shifted, is changed, ends up being different to what I perceived it to be. Naturally, it'll be triggered. But when I can actually completely embrace it, not knowing, that's true freedom, isn't it? Yeah.
Being able to celebrate and enjoy the unknowing, or like the only known is the unknown. That's the quote that's always makes more and more sense as I go through life. So once you can just accept the fact and enjoy that, actually, not only do I not know, but I don't need to know. Yeah. I don't need to know what's wrong with me. Right?
True freedom.
Right? And then you can put everything on the table. Like, this is everything I don't know about my life. And it's all good.
Yeah.
Then suddenly all of those things lose power. And you are now willing to face these things and attract the things into your life that's going to allow you to face them.
Beautiful.
Whatever they may be.
Beautiful. I love that, brother. So, last question. Or last 2 questions. What lights you up?
Inspiring. It doesn't even make sense. Inspiring. Inspiration is spirit in action.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And motivation and inspiration are different things.
Absolutely.
Discipline and inspiration are different things. Yeah. So I notice in life I'm not always motivated. I notice in life I'm not always disciplined. But I do know in life that giving allows me to build up this tank inside myself, like a fire starts sort of like growing and growing. And giving, not just like giving people money, but like giving a compliment, giving energy, giving experience and insights. It's like free energy. That lights me up. Puts me into a state of inspiration.
So beautiful, brother. So beautiful. Now, one that wants to step into abundance, right? And, wants to attract more abundance into their life, because I feel like there's been a strong theme of this over this chat. So one that maybe is, in a place of stagnation themselves, or stagnation. We're both saying random words. Stagnation. And one that, is in a place where they are living in a bit of lack. What would you say to them?
Almost let go. But let go of this, right? The more you desire abundance, the more it's going to be something you desire. If you want something really bad, if I really want a black watch, it implies that I don't have it.
I see.
You know what I'm saying? It creates distance and space. So, funny, my partner actually said something to me this morning, and I wanted to say something back to her, but I didn't feel like it was for that, and it's almost coming through this, and I'm like, that was interesting. So I spoke on some stuff about the universe as I do with her, and she was like, yeah, that's beautiful. We can truly manifest anything we want. And I was like, and I wanted to add something onto that. This ties in perfectly. So yes, we can truly manifest anything we want, only if we have we truly don't mind if it goes either way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Only if we don't mind not having it.
That's it. Yes, and truly embody that.
Yeah, because there's, again, difference between intellectually knowing to truly embodying.
It's almost like developing a relationship with the creator or God, because you know that developing that relationship will get you things. You can't make a deal with the universe. You can't make a deal with God, right? So I would say that, man, as anyone in lack right now, most likely really desires not being in lack, really desires abundance. And if you can find peace within the lack, then you realize you already have abundance, and more abundance finds you.
Yeah, and so abundance is realized, as you mentioned, right? Right. It's not.
So enjoy your lack. That's what I would say.
Oh, and that is abundance.
That's abundance.
That is beautiful.
That's the mountain right there, right?
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much for coming on, brother. This has been an amazing episode, even with the interruptions. It's just been beautiful. So, guys, I cannot recommend enough to go follow this man. So talk to us about where they can find you. Talk about Legacy as well, because this episode is going to go up after Legacy's launch. Tell us.
At Shenthambaya. If you want to know the spelling, check out Pocket Ghost. It'll be tagged, etc.
And also it'll be in the show notes as well of the podcast and on the YouTube as well.
Beautiful. So my approach on social media is document my process, document my truth, and give you guys a real life look into the regular person behind the icon or the image the character that we play, right? Legacy for me has been something that all of my mentoring, my coaching programs, I always love to redefine and continually refine them. And Legacy is almost my latest iteration. I've come to realize one thing that I've done time and time again for people and in my own life is turn any passion or idea or transmute my mental inner imagination into something that I can live and serve, and that being a business, right? So my passion with Legacy is to create a pathway for people to turn any sort of idea or thing they are passionate or inspired about and allow that inspiration to turn into a 5-figure, 6-figure, 7-figure business. And honestly, things like the next Facebook and the next Amazon, because these were all based on inspired actions at the end of the day. They were all things that were very close to these founders like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, and we all are great visionaries at the end of the day, if that is the path we feel like we want to walk. So Legacy is just a conveyor belt or a seamless pathway to take you through that process based on my own experiences and my clients' experiences. And check out my vibe, and if you resonate, you resonate.
Thank you so much, brother. You guys can find all that information for Legacy, for Shent, in the description below, in the show notes and everything there. Thanks so much once again, brother, for coming on.
Anytime.
Honestly, love you, brother. Thank you once again. And guys, you know that, of course, as always, we don't charge for this. We don't have ads, none of the sort. We want this to be free content. I might do advertising one day, but for the meantime, I'm not going to do any of that. So there is a fee, and the fee is just this. The only fee that I ask is that if you did find any benefit from this, you learned anything, you gained anything, you got entertained, to simply share it. Just tell a friend or post it on social, like screen record, post on your story, any of the rest. Subscribing, reviewing, all that sort of thing helps us grow the podcast. It's the only way we do grow, is actually word of mouth. So that enables us to reach people that may also be benefited by this sort of stuff. So if you do feel that you benefited in any way, then do us a favor and share it. As always, guys, I love you so much. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Until next time, catch ya.
Beautiful. I love you too.
Hey.